Welcome, everybody, and welcome to today's first episode of the new series after getting through 42 freaking parts. I cannot stress enough of the new series and the Last The Walking Dead series for now, and then we're going to get to the genre thing that I had been building up and the scheduling and all that. This is the Last Walking Dead story for now, not forever. No, not by a long shot. I got millions of those. But for now, this is the last one with the spin-off included. What if Merle lived instead of Daryl? Now, in the original, the governor put a bullet in Merle's chest, tore off his fingers, and appropriately, in his own twisted way, killed Merle, leaving Daryl to find him as a walker and ultimately put him down at the feed store. Now, what do I mean by Merle lived instead of Daryl? I just didn't word it good enough. What's going to be happening is Daryl is going to be killed instead of Merle. And Merle is going to be essentially the new Daryl Dixon in a very different way, obviously. Because Daryl, even now, is still alive, surviving through hell and back, and living all the way to a spinoff for a season 2, for Christ's sake. So, I even have a spinoff with Merle and Beta covered for this story. Now, by no means will this be 40 parts. Heck, I don't even think another story will be 40 parts. At least not for a god-dang long time. But, with the spinoff included with Merle and Beta, Merle replacing Daryl, we're getting in for a good, fun ride. So, like every story, let's set the scene. We get to Merle about to trade Michonne to the governor at the feed store at the end of season 3. But ultimately, he does change his mind and finally starts to redeem himself and wants to go ahead and go to the feed store and basically take care of the governor his way. But unlike the canon storyline, we're going to say that Daryl catches on faster and revs his bike and gets to where Merle and Michonne are quicker. Well, Michonne first and then Merle quicker than he did. So, Merle doesn't get far. As a matter of fact, he doesn't even get all the way to the bar that he was at before he got the drinks and then was about to lead the walkers to the feed store. You know the story. He gets to where Merle is before the bar even and manages to see him and stop him. And Merle was not expecting Daryl. And Daryl wasn't expecting this. And asks Merle, what is he doing? First he lets Michonne go and seems like he's trying to do good here, but what's he plan on doing now? Fighting the governor by himself? Why didn't he even tell anybody? Why did he take Michonne? Daryl wants answers now. And Merle says he wanted to trade Michonne in because nobody else would, but not even he could do it after all this time. And he says to Daryl, I think your officer friendly has finally gotten me soft. But he does say that he was, yes, going to take care of the governor his way and didn't want to get anyone, especially his baby brother, involved. Because this was his way of finally showing that he had learned something and show Daryl and Rick and them they were wrong to treat him so cruelly, even if he did do a bunch of things and everything. He's trying to repent. But Daryl says, what good is repenting or redeeming yourself if you go and get yourself killed by this madman? You should have informed me or Rick or someone else or taken Michonne with you. Even if the governor's out for blood for both of you. Being at it alone just ain't enough. You should know that. And says that, no. He's not going to be the one to go ahead and risk his life for nothing, just when he's trying so hard now to finally redeem himself. He doesn't get to do that. Daryl is going to be the one to go and fight the governor. Because if anyone is willing enough and good enough to risk their lives, it's him. And Merle's like, he shuts this down immediately and says that this is his choice. Daryl, his baby brother, can't take that away from him. He is doing this to protect him, Michonne, Rick, the prison. He is doing this for them. And Daryl needs to understand that. Let him go and let him do this. This is his way of showing how far he's come, and he doesn't want that botched up. Daryl says he understands that, but he also said he wanted his brother back. But this isn't what he meant. He meant for him to, redeem himself in a way where he doesn't go out and get himself killed. Doing this doesn't prove anything except that it's a small-time redemption factor and then just gets himself killed. That's not what Daryl wanted when he said that. Which is why Daryl doing this is the best course of action. And Merle wants justification. How does that work? Daryl says he's redeemed himself and gotten himself a better place with Rick and everybody else since the start. After looking for Sophia and everything that went on after they stopped looking for Merle. And if there's anyone who has redeemed themselves long enough through this apocalypse and is the best choice to take out the governor, it's him. He wants Merle to live and actually redeem himself fully. Daryl, he feels that he's done everything that he possibly can around this point. He's looked the best for Sophia, looked out for Carol, found her. He's done enough. But Merle begs and pleads with him. He doesn't want his brother to have to do this for him. He wants to be the one to do it, and Daryl has still so much to live for. This is Merle's choice. But Daryl, he isn't listening. He wants his brother to live. He wants Rick to finally, and him to finally be, as close as him and Rick were, actual, brothers and care about each other. And if he doesn't get his brother back the way that he wants to, with him being around and not wanting to risk his life, then Daryl will do the deed himself. And, yeah, without another word, and that being all that he says after that, Daryl rides off and goes to get the walkers and the bar and everything, and lead the walkers his own way to the feed store. Now, Merle, so much of him wants to stop Daryl. But his brother did make a compelling enough case that he did do a lot while Merle was gone and chained up and everything. And his arm also puts him at a disadvantage, which Daryl, I feel, would have mentioned. And Daryl said enough that Merle really just can't go after him. And on the car ride back to the prison, Michonne says, "You made the right choice." And I think that Daryl will come through, knowing a little bit about Daryl enough to, enough from Michonne's standards. But Merle just gives her a look and says, Daryl, even if he has both of his arms, Merle still doesn't feel that he knows what he's up against. Merle knows the governor's savagery and tactics, even before he lost his eye. Daryl has no idea what he's getting himself into, but he literally just did not have the spine to stop him by force. Meanwhile, Daryl has reached the feed store, getting the walkers there his own spirited way, similar to Merle, but a little bit different to say the least, and would stage an act into the entrance of the feed store and in it, except this time it's not Merle with the sniper, it's Daryl with his crossbow. So it would be similar, yet not exactly the same. And Daryl would probably plan it differently, like I just said. Fortunately, Ben does get in the way of one of Daryl's arrows, but fortunately, the two walkers that appear in the feed store, Daryl is able to take out with much better ease than Merle was. Number one, because he has both of his hands. And number two, because we're talking about Daryl here. So, yeah, he would definitely be able to take these two out without opening the door and alerting everybody to his position sooner, even though they already picked up on it when Merle shot, even before he came out. But, you know, it's easier on Daryl's part here, considering who he is and how he's done it. But the governor still ends up finding him, opens the door by force, and they begin to fight. Meanwhile, Merle and Michonne are still driving towards the prison, past the bar at this point. They were already past it before Daryl drove off. But they're on their way back to the prison, and Merle, he's just thinking and thinking about how much danger Daryl's in, what he said, what the redemption factor of him means, and he just can't take it. He can't let his brother do this. This was his choice, and his way of making up for the wrongs that he did in his life before the apocalypse and now, and says to Michonne, I've got to go save my brother. And Michonne definitely would support this no matter what. Not only knowing that Merle's redeemed himself to a small factor at this point, enough to like show true emotion, but the fact that she knows the governor's savagery and that Daryl might need some help. She just didn't want to believe it at first. Seeing a bit of Daryl in action, or whatever she would have seen. Now, we get a The Walking Dead Destinies twist with Daryl fighting the governor. The best twist. Thank God for the game. It actually plays in the factor of this what if in a small little nod. Now, Daryl is able to put up a much better fight than Merle did. One, because he wasn't caught off guard. He didn't get the door open because of the walkers, and he has two hands, and because it's Daryl Dixon. A lot of things play into factor that Daryl is a much better match against the governor because of all of these factors. And even though his crossbow doesn't land even possibly one arrow in this battle, maybe one, he would still be very good with the knife wielding and fighting the governor at this point. But in order for the story to work, we can't just say that Daryl miraculously wins but still dies. That would be a very weird way to set up the story, and very illogical, because Daryl might be a better match for the governor than Merle, but the governor, compared to Season 3 Daryl, is still much more savage, cunning, unpredictable, and a much better hand-to-hand fighter than Daryl at this point in time. I would put Daryl at Season 5 at least to be a match for the governor. Maybe the middle of Season 4. So the governor overall just eventually outmaneuvers Daryl and begins to take the battle into his standards with gunshots, stabbing, biting, and ruthless nature. Daryl just can't keep up anymore. And at this point, he's telling the governor literally to kill him. And he's not going to do that, like, I ain't begging you thing like Merle, because that wouldn't be poetic, because Daryl never said that. Merle did. But he is telling him to put him out of his misery, or he's just going to get up, keep fighting, and put the governor out of his. And the governor, while Daryl would be an annoyance and get him angry, especially getting a few of his men killed, he wouldn't be as bloodlusted towards Daryl as he would be Merle. Because Merle betrayed him, and even though he was Daryl's brother and the governor should hate Daryl here, Merle betrayed him after he helped him and caused many of the governor's problems. So he raises his gun, much less hostily, while Merle shows up with his, looking for Daryl, just as the governor pulls the trigger. After this, he steps out to see Merle armed up, looking for his brother, and of course would hear him a little bit after shooting his gun at Daryl, and is in an increasingly good mood after this fortune of killing Merle's brother, and asks him, "What are you doing here? I didn't expect you here." But Merle is not playing any sort of games and knows the governor inside and out and doesn't care for any of it, and literally points his gun square in the governor's direction and demands to know, trying to hold back the possibility, where his brother is. But the governor just raises his hands and say, "Whoa, you just got here and you're just gonna show up all hostily like this? Did you put your brother up to some staged effort to try and kill me?" He's trying to hold back that he just killed his brother and everything, but Merle obviously isn't gonna buy a word of this, and demands and says that he's done playing games, and if the governor doesn't tell him where his brother is, he's literally going to kill him. He is in that kind of mood right now. And asks, where is his brother? And the governor's like, you know what? Whatever. He doesn't want to have a cordial good time with the man who helped him? Fine. I'll tell you. And he basically says that he's inside, but he probably isn't going to be alive for too long, considering he decided to show up here, kill a few of his men, and try to fight him. He actually put up a good fight, showing the governor, injuries and everything. He expected Merle to do something like this, or Michonne, or Rick, but not him, which is why the governor's in a good mood. But he switches that around completely and goes back to savage craziness and points his gun and says that just because he's in a good mood and got to kill at least somebody, and especially Merle's brother, doesn't mean he's done with him, Michonne especially, or Rick, and says that the next time that they meet, he will kill Merle, Michonne, Rick, and everybody there. So, he best just get whatever business he has done here with his brother, whatever, go inside and see what's going on. But if he tries to attack him right here and now, he will kill him and everyone right away. So he'd better plan his next move, what he's gonna do, wisely. Because the governor can switch his mood around like that, and Merle knows that. And Merle just angrily just glares at the governor, pays no mind to him, steps away from him, runs to the feed store entrance, and calls for his brother. The governor just getting away because he doesn't care. Like I said, he's in a good mood, having killed somebody. And once Merle gets inside, Daryl, at this point, he wouldn't be a walker roaming around just yet. But at this point, with the small little jump, he would be slowly starting to turn into a walker and begin to rise up from where he had been shot down and brutally murdered. Merle looks down, not wanting this to have been the case. He knew that the governor literally said to his face that he killed him and implied that so much so, but Merle was trying to push him aside, ignore him, ignore the person that, oh, he helped him and everything like that. But he didn't want to believe it because he wanted to be the one to risk his life. He told Daryl it wasn't his time, but Daryl just wouldn't listen. And this is what happened. But he has to admit, Daryl did do a really good job fighting the governor. There were clear indications that the governor struggled for at least a time. And with Merle, his one hand, how he is, and everything like that, he wouldn't have done really as good or even better than Daryl in that situation. So ultimately, something good did come out of it, and Merle has to at least praise his brother in his death with that. But he quickly subsides those thoughts, kicks Darrow's walker, and uses his knife hand to, unfortunately, put his walker brother down. And he has to mourn the loss, smallly, of his brother. He would cry, yes, but Merle wasn't one to show emotion through and through. This would probably be the first time he, like, cries, of course. But now he knows what he will do with this new chance, this new life he's been given. Daryl said that he wanted Rick and him to be friends, for him to step up to be a big part of the group, and for him to ultimately do good and everything like that. Now, Merle, having this chance given to him, Daryl making a sacrifice, and the governor not killing him because of the good mood he was in by killing his younger brother, Merle now knows what he's going to do. He will help Rick and Michonne and everyone kill the governor. They will save Andrea, and they will get the life that they wanted back. Well, Rick and them specifically at their prison. There will be no more governor, no more fighting amongst each other. They will kill the governor, and he will finally show that he has redeemed himself and changed. And with that, Merle now knows that Daryl's sacrifice wasn't for nothing. It taught Merle a valuable lesson. Meanwhile, at the prison, Rick and everybody's looking for Daryl, Merle, and Michonne still, because it's taken longer for them to get back than I feel originally Daryl and Michonne to come back. You know? It's taken them longer. But soon enough, they don't have to worry for too much longer, because even though it's only two of them, Rick, from the corner of his eye, alerts everybody to the entrance of the prison, where they see two figures in a car zooming in with a bike in tow and entering the prison. And entering it is Merle and Michonne, looking beat somewhat, but they're here. But Daryl isn't. And this definitely would reach with everybody. How will everyone react with Daryl risking his life and being dead? Will Merle be better than Daryl? Just the same? How will he ultimately come into terms with replacing Daryl as the lead, or one of the lead protagonists? And what will happen with the governor and future threats, especially with stuff that I've teased for this specific story? With those thoughts out of the way, hope you enjoyed this first part, and I'll see you guys next time.